Hi, I'm Gui. Welcome to my channel. A lot of people have asked how I learned English. In China today, many kids start learning English in kindergarten with native teachers. But back in my day, we didn't start until middle school. And all our English teachers had heavy Chinese accents, even heavier than mine. But looking back, learning English really took my life to a completely different place.我总是选择困难的路，旁边有好的路我不走，不要走这边。
I was born in a mountain village in Chongqing. You might have heard of Chongqing as the cyberpunk city now. But my world wasn't cyberpunk. Just endless mountains, muddy dirt roads, and miles of silence. Completely cut off from the outside world. I started learning English in middle school at 11. Before that, I'd never seen a foreigner or a foreign movie. I didn't even know there were people speaking another language somewhere. I spoke Chongqing dialect fluently, but my Mandarin was terrible. And suddenly, I had to learn something that sounded like alien language. My first English teacher was a guy in his 50s. He was especially nice to me. Maybe because he knew I was a ghost child, only there because of some connection. He knew school wasn't easy for me. I was afraid of letting him down. I walked over an hour to school each way, mostly on empty mountain trails. To kill the boredom, I memorized English words along the way. When my mouth got dry, I'd steal a few oranges from roadside trees. In that area, orange trees were everywhere. Cheap, common, most of them rotting on the branches. I figured no one would mind a kid stealing. Before I even learned the phonetic alphabet, I'd write Chinese characters next to English words that sounded similar. So, my pronunciation was terrible. Later, my mom noticed how eager I was to learn and bought me an old-school cassette player. I loved it. Besides listening to English tapes, I secretly listened to some pop songs too. That was my first time hearing pop music. Pirated tapes from Hong Kong and Taiwan. Living in that isolated mountain area, I got my first taste of the outside world. Then my mom and I moved to another province to live with my stepdad. I transferred to a school near his hometown. The pressure got worse. His hometown dialect was completely different from Chongqing's. I couldn't understand anyone, teachers, classmates, or my stepdad. It was painful. Strangely, the only time I felt like I fit in was in English class, when everyone else was also stumbling over their words. The rest of the time, I felt like an outsider. Later, I went to high school and college. English was all just for exams. The real change came in my first year after college. I left the campus dorm and rented a tiny room in an urban village. 6 square meters, no windows, no air conditioner, no private bathroom, stuffy and hot. Rent was 240 yuan a month, and my salary was 1,500 yuan. I had a temporary job at a government office. The job wasn't good. No future, no real prospects. My mom kept pushing me to find something else. But I had just graduated. I had no work experience at all. And unlike some of my classmates, I had no family to fall back on. This was the best I could do on my own at the time. I was stuck in a rut and felt totally miserable. I wasn't a student anymore, but I wasn't a real adult either. One day after work, I accidentally heard a Backstreet Boys song. I'd never heard that style. It was energetic, young, full of passion. That moment, something clicked. I suddenly wanted to learn English. In all the uncertainty about my future, this suddenly became the one thing I could be sure of. My workload was pretty light, so I secretly studied during work. After work, I went back to that tiny dark room and played Backstreet Boys songs on loop and watched their music videos non-stop. My body was trapped, but my mind felt like a door had been kicked open to a whole new world. I started watching American shows and listening to BBC and VOA learning programs. My friend and I went to a KTV once. She put up with me singing English songs for 3 hours straight. I got so obsessed that things got weird. One day, I went to a hardware store for a screwdriver. I knew the English word, but the Chinese one was completely gone from my mind. I had to pull out my phone, type screwdriver into a translator, and show it to the shopkeeper. He looked at me like I'd lost my mind. I started looking for ways to improve. Eventually, I found online chat rooms. There was a Google plugin that let me in. I'd nervously type a sentence. If someone replied, I'd freeze, afraid they'd find out I was a Chinese person with terrible English. Once someone asked, "Do Chinese people really eat everything? Why do you eat dogs?" I wanted to explain so badly, but my English wasn't good enough. Honestly, eating dog meat? That's nothing. In Chinese history, there were times when people were so starving, they exchanged their own children for food. Around then, I wanted to express my own thoughts and have deeper conversations with the outside world. But that was hard. I chose to stay away from those debates. My life has been dramatic enough as it is. I just want to keep my mind pure and surround myself with beautiful things. So I went back to music. In 2 or 3 years, I listened to Western rock music spanning decades. I couldn't always catch the stories, but I felt the emotions. Before that, most Chinese songs I knew were love songs. This was different, a whole universe. My English got better than everyone around me. They stopped learning after school. I kept going. A colleague needed baby formula from a foreign Amazon site. She couldn't read the pages, so I helped. When I left that job, I even recorded a video to teach her how. English cracked open my world. It's why I left my hometown and moved to Shenzhen, a more open, international city. I changed my career, started from zero. I got my current job partly because I understand some English terms. Most Chinese people study English in school. It's a main subject like math. My parents did too, back in the 1960s. But now they can't remember a single word, because if you don't use it, you lose it. Now when I look back, the turning point in my life was that Backstreet Boys song, and that tiny, dark, cramped room. And that room had another story, a really scary one. It's a story about losing everything and then being reborn. Maybe I'll tell you another day. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Hope you all have a great future ahead.